Last week, we talked about the site settings cache. Yeah, we talked about the HTML content builder optimizations using allocations. We'll see that this PR has been merged. But I wanted to add some more comments on this one because I am picky. But it's merged. It's there. So status on the screen, port 1, we did the triage. I forgot to check I'll check at the end of the meeting. What did we do? Nothing there. This was not before. So nothing since last week. Control core since 24. No. 30. Yeah. Okay. Oh, I'm messing up with everything. I need to create a new demos. Oh, we'll have a demo from Mike, maybe. Well, more.
Yeah, I can do a demo. Yeah, I can do that demo.
The pit demo. Okay, so since 10/31st, here during the meeting, Antoine fixed some Monaco issues. And this issue was in multiple places. I stand alone with our construction option schema file. Remove admin.js dependency on fields and parts. Yes, so the admin.js was including jQuery. This was using jQuery. This is not using jQuery anymore. So this was only added for jQuery because we don't use jQuery in this file anymore. We don't need this dependency anymore. And it's done in multiple locations. And if it only requires jQuery, then it's saying I only require jQuery, so don't include that in. So removing the admin dependency is not necessary. And usually, whenever we remove something everywhere, we find locations where, well, actually we need that, so we'll add it back. We'll see if it's the case. But you start using that and you say, oh, we are passing this code path, so okay, so removing the dependency here. Update library, libphonenumber. Let's use update, movies update. Use CommitAsync instead of commit. Okay. As a reminder, these methods, async and transaction, I believe, are not available before the .NET 6 or something like that. So this is probably why we had that and not that at some point. And then when we switched to 6, we could have also converted that. But you do it now. Okay. Comment also on that. You see here, log debug a string versus this one where it says if is enabled debug, log debug. The difference between the two is that here we check before calling it, because if we called it, then this string.join will be evaluated. So even if the log debug will not log anything, it will still create this big string. So this is why we check before calling that. Here, there is no need to check before because it's a static string. So there is no cost into calling. There is no gain into checking if debug is enabled before calling that. Because log debug will do that. And here, try catch, rollback, commit. In transaction, rollback, commit, probably. BenchmarkDotNet update, add shortcode for cache busting. So the idea is that when you create image URLs using the shortcodes, now you can also add the append version equals true property to it, such that the version property will be generated with the URL. And when the image changes, then the version is different, then the client will download the new image. That's something that is available in Liquid, but it wasn't available in the shortcode. Validate cache on updating store. So multiple document store or document manager invalidation issues. So gently fixing them. They were detected by some people that find issues that during setup the recipes will fail completely. So there are conflicts between things that are updated from database in read-only and things that can be updated. So that's a fix. Mike improved the perf of CssClass extensions. What we saw during a review. So there are two things here. First, renaming this one here, get field wrapper CssClasses to get field wrapper classes. We could have discussed that change, but there is a warning that you can change the name of the method. Whatever, this is a helper that will generate some CSS class here, okay, a combination of CSS classes, and these are extension methods here. So I see 3 files here. This one, and this one with different values. So here, what Mike did to improve performance is before it was generating a string by creating a list of strings and then concatenating these strings. Okay. Now what it's doing, it's using an HTML content builder, which is like a collection of HTML content, and it also implements HTML content. It's like what's the name? A composite of HTML content. And because of that, there is no string concatenation. Because when this thing, the HTML content builder, will be rendered, it will write each of the strings directly to the text writer of the template. So we don't have to concatenate the strings to create new CSS classes and then create a big string with all the CSS classes and make them make all these allocations. So that's one game. So you see here happen one thing or a list of things, and then we can also handle which ones need to be encoded or not encoded. Something I saw later after the PR was more. So here, Yeah, so I think that's what I wanted to say here. So here, there is still a concatenation. So we have 2 parts to create the CSS class. And I was wondering if we could have, in this case, said, instead of creating one thing and say append separated value, could we have said append that thing, append the space, the dash, append that thing. So it will be 3 items, but when they will render like merged, like with no space. And
but the problem is that the append method is going to check if the string is empty every single time. So you have 3 parameters going to check them. So why would we do that?
Oh,
I think this is more efficient.
Well, no. I mean, checking 3 times if a string is empty is much cheaper than creating a new string, which is a concatenation of the string. Because here we are creating a new string, right? This is a concatenation. So that thing, and
I mean, is it true though that
for sure
this is time? Well, because so here either you concatenate 2 things, okay, or you pass 2 parameters, and both parameters you're checking is it null or empty? Is it null or empty? So
yep.
you do that check twice.
Yep. Oh, definitely. Because you have to allocate and then you have to garbage collect the thing eventually. So that thing is more expensive than just checking. And 99.99999% of the case, when you call that thing with 3 parameters, they won't be empty. So the test will just be, what's the length of the string? Oh, it's not empty. Good. It's not even checking for spaces and everything. You don't care about spaces. It's just, is it empty? So yeah, but so there is this one. But I think what I wanted to say is HTML content builder. Yeah, see, I still have it in mind. So what I saw is that something like that. You see here, there is an append line in the extension method, and you also made the extension method. I wondered if it would have been interesting to say something like append space for the things, because you did something like that. So there is append separated values. So that is good. I think it was missing one. And I thought that maybe you could have added another extension method to support that instead of, I don't remember actually. I should have commented on that, but yeah. Just, I remember right now that I saw this one and this gave me some ideas like append line, append HTML line. So just to be more consistent versus the things that you had done, but this one looks the same. Well, just to explain the idea of why using HTML content builder instead of here returning, creating new arrays of strings and concatenating all the strings. So that's good. There are always still things that you can improve, but that's much better. HTML content builder. That's the key here. Do not show dashboard widget when dashboard widget is removed. The list of available. Oh, you mean the part itself? Yeah, I think the title is the dashboard widget stereotype, right? Is removed or part, I don't remember.
Yeah, the stereotype, when the stereotype is removed.
Yeah, so if you remove the stereotype on one of the widgets, then they should not, the widget itself should not show up anymore on the dashboard. And the discussion we had was then, how do you remove that if you can't see it anymore? And Mike explained to us that you go to the content items admin page, then you can still see the widget now, and you can delete it. Docs update, Jint update. It's just a space here. CssClasses helper 1. Oh, because there was a warning because of the obsolete attribute. Its content preview editor resource dependency. You see what I said? I didn't know about that. I didn't check. Exactly that. We remove dependencies and oh, let's run it. Oh crap! Actually, we needed that. Like we didn't realize, but we needed it. That's funny. And then, however, this one is removed. That's great.
Yeah, because in the past, admin was using jQuery all the time. So it was like, okay, admin is doing it. So, I mean, this dependency was bad to begin with, but yeah.
Let's see.
I mean,
so content preview edit. Use an, oh, I see. Oh, no, that actually, oh, I see. No, okay. So what I said is wrong. I thought that it was adding it back, but it's not adding it back. It's just that there was a dependency from the script itself to that hard-coded dependency. And now it's been removed. Okay, that's great, actually. Catch. How do you find it? It's the content preview script. Probably this file.
This one, there was a race condition because there was a call to get the render previous URL that was done outside the page loaded scope. So if the page is loaded and you do that request, you're going to get a failure because the jQuery is not even available yet. So that render preview URL, that call used to be, you notice, on line 29.
So it's not using jQuery anymore, the content preview?
It is, unfortunately. I mean, it's an easy remove, but I just didn't have the time to.
Why is it using
change
jQuery actually? Because
just the syntax.
Okay.
Yeah, it's obviously jQuery syntax is much shorter. So before we used it, so everybody used jQuery.
Yeah, I'm not even sure. When we started, there were things available that run that we had in jQuery that we didn't have in DOM. Okay. You should update xunit update again. xunit probably fix the bug. Okay, good. Questions? I don't want to do that. I want to do this one, this purple one. I was confused by the color. Mike, you wanted to show us something to try the discussion.
Yes, it will. And after that, I have some questions and discussions about other topics as well. Hopefully we have time. Okay, so I needed a way, and hopefully others did. You can see my screen, right?
Yes.
Okay, so we needed a way to be able to put a form on a page and then somehow redirect back to that same page where we came from using workflow. So we have a workflow activity or task that allows us to redirect the user to a specific location, which is great if you know where you want to go back to. Like if you want to go back to the home page, then you can always redirect to the home page. That's perfect. But what if you want to reuse the same workflow for multiple forms or reuse the same form on multiple pages? And then when the user submits that form, go back to where they submitted the form from. There is no way to do that right now. And that's where this PR came from, is how can we redirect back the user to the page where they came from? So I have a content item in here. I pre-created a couple pages just so we can kind of see this and test it out. So these two content items, they're cloned. So literally they do the same thing, just a different title with a different route. So if I edit this one, you'll see that I create a form. There is the location, the action, which is a workflow. This is one of the new options that I added. So on the form, just like we have a way to say, include anti-forgery token, we also have enable request originated location. And what this does, it just adds a hidden field in the form of the location of the page where the form is rendered at. Okay, and to see that, I'm going to show here. This is a form, or this is the form that was generated. And if we look in here, you'll see two hidden fields. This field is for request verification token, and this request is for the originated form. And as you can see right now, it's /test because that's where we are. And if we go to the other one, it's going to have a different value based on the page. And as you see here, it's /test-2. And so the way how this works is that if you uncheck this, then that hidden value is no longer included, but by default, we include it anyway. And if you go to workflows, you can add the new activities. So here I create a basic workflow. All it does is just show a notification, then redirect the user back to where they come from. And this is the new activity that was added. So if we go here, you see there's a form originated HTTP redirect. And this one redirects the agent to the original location of the form. And that's what this one does. It evaluates this input value and redirect the user back to where it came from. And if you want to see it in action, so here you go, we're on test 1, and we're just going to submit the form. Got a breakpoint, get rid of that. And I got that flash notification. I'm back to test. And if I go to the second page, which is another route, and I do a submit, and here you go, I get the flash notification. I'm back on test 2. So again, here, I don't have to redefine where the user needs to go. I can just say redirect to where the user came from or originated from and be done with it. See, there's the other, it's probably worth mentioning. So there's a HTTP redirect. So this one will allow you to specify, specific location where you want the user to go. Okay, and we can't really use that here because we don't know where the form, was originated from, because it could be from multiple places. So that's the main difference between these two. And that is it for this demo. Questions, comments?
Yes. Anyone else before I go?
No, go.
No, I didn't ask you. I said anyone else.
Oh, anyone else? I thought I'd say anything else.
Sorry. Yeah, so there is the HTTP redirect, and there is no. So I want this new activity and this option are working together, and it's working. I like it. My concern is that it's sad that we can't make it reusable for other things. Example, here you have one form. So you expect that in the same workflow request, like when you submit the form, the workflow instance runs and then comes to an activity that knows that it's in a request that was issued by a form. So the two activities, the option and the redirect activity, have to be used in the same request. And if you want to send an email and then come back when the user clicked on the email and then say, okay, now go back to the form that originated the email, you can't because it's not in the same request. It's two different requests. And what I suggested when I asked on Thursday was, is there a way to actually store the URL in the workflow state instead of just the request state, such that even on a long workflow, we can reuse this value? like, oh, I want to go back to the first form, like from 2 days ago. So the activity would be a HTTP redirect and use the value of the workflow instance.
So I thought
yeah.
about that because we talked about that last time. So I thought about that. In this context, your whole workflow relies on an HTTP request because you want to be able to do things with like validate the form data. So really your whole workflow doesn't work if you don't have form data, right? And we do not store form data in the input. So it's kind of the same thing. Like if your workflow really relies on like on a form data, then you can't really go through and redirect if you don't have, you know, like the whole request will fail. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but that doesn't mean that you can't, because you are creating a new concern, which is, oh, but if it needs to be in the same request, what I'm suggesting will work with the same request and a different request. Because in the same request, you could have the form data and the originated URL. I'm not saying you can't do that. But with my recommendation, you can also do without the form request if you don't need it. And maybe you need, there are two different solutions. Like there is the easy one, the configuration, it just works. And there is the extended one where you can also save the URL in the state. So this way you would have two options, or another one from the one you have today, which is, okay, first you want to generate the originated URL. There is this option. And maybe you want to give it a name because you want to store it, like first form. Okay. And then you can still have your magical redirect the user back to the form origin, which will take the ambient form, the latest one, actually. But you could also use the HTTP redirect, where you could read the state that was stored by the first form to do something else. Because you might also have two forms in your workflow, but want to redirect to the first one and then the second one, right? So yeah, so I think a good compromise would be to keep whatever you did, but add another option with a setting to store the named value, like to give it a name, so it will define a new variable in the workflow that will contain this value. So you can refer to that later. Not clear?
I'm trying to process. No, it's
so you keep everything like you have because that's the simplest way to use what you did. But if you open the handle incoming HTTP request options, the first workflow activity option. Oh, it's in the form. Sorry, the form options then.
Yeah, the form options.
Where you have the new option, like this one. You see, enable request originated in the collection. So by default, it will do what you have today, which is store the URL in the ambient request items. But maybe you could have another sub option to this one, which is what is
define a name.
Yes, what do you want to save that as in the workflow instance? Give me a name. And then if people want to use HTTP redirect in 2 days, or they want to have 3 forms and go to the first one, they can because they named the variable that they want to use. You could say you can then remove your custom originated redirect because the standard one will do that. But yours makes it easier because you don't have to type the name of the variable in both activities.
I think I understand.
Okay.
I just think I think it's just might complicate, trying to explain what that does to a user. You know what I mean?
I'm saying like I see it's useful, so I'm saying it might be useful for something else.
Yeah, no, I mean I understand what you're saying. I mean I get it, but I'm just saying trying to explain that's what I'm trying to wrap my head around.
Oh, well,
trying to explain it to the user what that means or what it does.
And the second part of my comments is I don't understand what the text of your thing does. Like, I know your feature. If I don't know the feature and I read this text, I have no idea what it's doing. Enable request originated location. I have no idea what it is. Pick someone in the next meeting and ask them, okay, you have this text here. What will happen if people check this box?
Yeah, I mean, I get it. Feel free to
So,
provide a better verbiage. I mean,
save. It should start by save form URL, something like that at least. So it says that, okay, I want to save it. And then in the hint, you could say, you can use the whatever other activity to redirect to this page later, or then the option, save the value of the URL in a custom variable, and then there is a text box. But enable request originated location, there is no verb. The verb is enable. Okay, so I want request originated location. Yeah. That's why I say it should like store, save, forms URL, something like that.
maybe like include the form location in the form in the request.
Be careful. No, I think it's an implementation detail. The fact that you use an input in the form, no, that's an implementation detail. I don't care that there is an input with the request form, whatever. No, you can just say save forms URL or forms location, and in the hint explain what other activity you need to use to do what, or link to a documentation. But it's not appealing the enable request originated location. I'm like, it's too complex for me. I don't understand that, so it's too complex. I don't need that. That's my concern.
Okay,
but
no, I'll update that verbiage.
Ask for their voicing if they want to voice their idea.
And the PR is out there. Anybody interested, they can go and comment and give us feedback.
They won't, because they don't understand the text.
Yeah. Okay.
Who should we? Zoltan would say something. So Gabor maybe will say something when he explains the picture.
Yeah, I mean, I'll update it, but if someone else has a better way to do it,
yeah, people will see the meeting and comment on that. Okay. Okay, that's great. Thank you. So we have that. I go back to my screen. So demo mic request originating, and I will say forms URL. That, what else?
Topics. You ready?
No. Like
so my first question about YesSql.
Okay.
It's a come on, you gotta love YesSql. So in YesSql, there is so I see whenever I'm gonna drop a link in the chat.
I know what you say.
Is there a reason why do we need to have a transaction when we run a select query? I mean, I assume there is. I need to understand the why.
There is. I don't remember, but there is, and I will tell you why there is. Not the reason, but why I know that there is. Because no, well, now I'm confused. There is. It must be my third ORM in .NET. And I don't remember that. But what I remember is that I explained why during an actual meeting, because I changed the default behavior. And I explained why during watching meeting. I also remember when I implemented the batch updates, that I talked about it with Shai Yajinsky, who is a developer of Entity Framework, and who also owns the PostgreSQL driver and BGSQL. And I talked about it with him, and he confirmed the way we're using it was correct, and he also explained something to me. So I know.
I mean, when you're doing a batch update, that makes sense.
Yeah.
But in a select query, it still doesn't make sense to me. But I'm sure there's a lot of information why.
There is, but there is also an impact on curve. Because it has to create a transaction. So there is an impact on curve, but yeah, I need to check back the meetings where we talked about it. Hopefully, Gabor will find these in the notes that we talked about it. I'm not sure he was handling the meetings when we talked about it, but I remember probably around the time when we did the change, I did some refactoring about all of these, and I explained why. So we need to find that meeting back. I don't remember. When I will see a few keywords, it will all come back, but I don't remember. I can ask also Shai what a reason why we would like transactions on reads.
I think it's really good to know, because I just don't know. I mean, transactions are made for bulk updating, or like, you know, when you update or insert something that depends on something else, so on and so forth. That's my understanding of a useful transaction. But the fact of a transaction for the select, I just don't know. I mean, you could have a select that depends on another select on it, but I don't know if we need a transaction for that.
Like that. Highly concurrent application will happen that data you've read in the first select is modified before the other selects are executed. And that will depend on the default isolation level that you set on the connection.
So possibly a race condition is what you're saying?
Yep, and then that's safer to say you might have two selects during the same session. And by using the transaction, you are sure that there is no update between the two selects from a different transaction. So that's why you want a transaction in the select. That's a very good reason, in my opinion. Might not be the one I used, but at least. Look, even Postgres, most databases write every single query in a transaction, even if not specified. It is implicitly wrapped. So by making it explicit, we know the boundaries of the transaction, at least for us. So you see, even like Postgres will do that. Like it will create a transaction, even if you don't say so. So let's say so. So we know when it is done. So maybe it's a false issue to say we don't need a transaction, because no, we don't say it, but it will still create one. So let's tell it when to create one and when to stop it. That might be also a reason.
Okay, so that's one topic.
But usually say that because you have issues.
No, well, because I'm just digging, right? And I just see something, I'm like, okay, I don't understand why. So, you know, and let me see if I can get more info, right? I'm not familiar enough with the YesSql to answer any of these questions, but just looking at code, it's like, okay, why? I'm sure everything is done for a reason. There's no need to modify anything, but you know, it's to me, I like to find out the whys, because it's a learning exercise. So my other question, which is why I'm looking into all this, which is the issue that we have, which is SNAT port exhaustion. I can give you that ticket issue number so you can open it. And last time you mentioned that you have a trick that you want to share with us.
Oh, thank you for reminding me. I completely forgot. Okay, let's see. I will stop sharing my screen just in case I'm doing something wrong. Okay, because I have access to Microsoft resources, so I can click on your ticket.
So look at that ticket. Let's talk about it, and then I guess whenever you want to share, you can, or whenever you want to show us. So let me kind of go through my findings so far. So I'm running a web app on Azure, okay? It's running with only a single CPU. Yes, it's not good, but it is, okay? However, everything we do is asynchronous. So there should never be a lock on that thread. So if something is happening, or waiting for something, it should release it so other requests can be still handled while we're waiting, right? That's the idea of synchronization. So the problem that I'm facing is I have a report that runs too long, which is bad. I get it, but that's not direct problem here. The report does a query to the database and it pulls a lot of records and it's taken too long. The problem is that during this whole time, that one thread is being stopped or it's hanging. So any other request that goes to the HTTP or HTTP request will have to wait. So everything starts spinning until this report completes, if ever, right? So the database connection is set to like 300 seconds. And for the entire duration of the 300 seconds, no HTTP request can come in and be handled by the same web app because that one connection, the database, is just holding on that thread.
I don't agree.
Sure. Okay, that's what I want to hear. Yes,
one
one
CPU,
CPU.
you can have multiple requests at the same time. That is not a problem. You can have multiple threads even with one CPU.
I mean, the CPU can only handle one request or one thread at a time. It can only process one at a time. It's per core. If you have one core, one CPU, one core, that's one thread at a time. If you have two core,
why do you say?
Because that's my understanding.
No,
I could be wrong.
And you use also the word looking on the thread, and I don't agree. I think that's not a good word. And no, and we can prove that we can run with one core even locally, even if we have 100 cores. I do that all the time. Like, yeah, so I think the issue is different, like, because here you have port exhaustions. You can't have one thing running and 500 ports used or connections created. It's completely opposite. So if there is one thing running, there is one port used, or maybe it's not released, but that's a different, whatever is the issue, is not a thrilling issue here. Because the more cores you will have, the more requests you will have, the more connections you will open. Right? So,
but they're all hanging, right?
With one
they're not being processed.
That's what you say, okay. But if they are not being processed, it means the ports. So if you have ports issue because requests are not being processed, the server has a single port, like 80, let's say. And the clients, like if you have 50 clients, 50 requests, they will all use a different client port. But on your server, it's one port. So when they say all your ports are taken, it's because the connections are originated from your server. And it means your app is creating the connections. So what we need to understand is, what are these connections? Are they to the database? Are they to another server? What are the type of connections that are created to what? And then why so many? And then why are they not released? Or just why so many are waiting for something? If it's to the database, we create, there is a pool of connections, okay, which is reused. So your theory could be true if all the requests are doing some database thing and every request is waiting on the database for a new connection because they are not released because they are still active. So that could be a theory.
I mean, so the current behavior is when you submit that form, which you issue that long running query,
okay,
everything halts.
but do you still send requests to this app?
Yeah,
If you
try
don't send
sending another action.
No, but what I mean is that if you don't send requests, do you have the problem of
You mean
SNAT?
for that long running report?
Yeah, I mean, it will run, it will work, but do you still see that the ports are all taken?
I haven't really looked at that. That app isn't really that busy, so
yeah. So how did you get like 400 connections?
That's when that issue. Well, when that issue happened, we started looking at what's happening, and then we noticed that the port exhaustion, and then I mean I made some changes on the the resources to try reducing that problem meanwhile, but I'd never solved that problem. So do we have that issue if we don't run that report? I have to really double check on that. I'm not positive.
Remember the benchmarks that I shared last time? So if I take that, take the last run, and I will pick the last run, and I can do that. And if I run, I can also do application.cpu set 0. This will run orchard on a single core. So once again, on a single core. Okay. The database server will be a full machine, PostgreSQL setup and everything, beautiful, like all the resources possible. But the application itself will be the single thing running on the machine on the Docker container with a single core, like the virtualized environment that you have. And the client will create 256 connections to the server and send requests to it, okay, to ask for the about page doing a database connection. Just to see how it behaves, just to show you that even with one CPU or the CPU, okay, it should work. If it doesn't, then I will investigate. If it does, at least we know, okay, it can work. Right?
Now, so do you agree with my statement? A one core, one CPU can only handle one thread at a time.
No, I don't think that's true. I think maybe a physical thread, maybe the core would do that, but that's, yeah, I think it will be able to handle multiple requests at the same time and multiple threads. I will show you.
And that's the whole reason behind asynchronization. When you have a synchronous thread, is that you're releasing that thread instead of holding that core, so that way it's able to process a lot more.
What's broken? Oh, maybe it's requiring environment variables that I haven't set here. But it should not, because it's pointing to it. Why isn't it working? And I will try to run in the next event just to see. At what point did it fail? But I saw it was like built. Okay, interesting. Okay, so can I take recommendation? An issue. What did I do? Property variables have been defined. There is no variables here, right? And here, variables. There is variables. Did I make a mistake? Mistake. That's why it's working then. Here, portrait size. HttpClient. HttpClient. This one. Went up. Then what you can do, please go on YesSql advanced tools. Okay. And you click go. That opens the Kudu portal or dashboard. I don't know how they call that. And there, Process Explorer. And you will find the .NET app that is running the website.
I am doing that right now.
Awesome.
I don't think I have these options.
Do you want me to go back or?
Hold on. Let me just open it, and I don't think I have these options. Well, I can't see it. Hang on. Oh.
Are you using an app service?
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's open now. So first of all, I don't have that option on the top that you have for the processing or processes.
Wait, maybe it's a different tab here. Just memory leak issue Linux app service. You have a Linux app service, right?
Yes.
Okay. So the thing you don't have is the process explorer, okay?
Okay.
Okay, so but you still have, let me see, the debug console, which must be bash or something.
Bash. Yep.
Okay, so you click on that.
Yep. I did that. I can't. I actually think I used the same reference, and I think one of the commands failing because the service is not available for some reason. Like the .NET dump is what you're after.
Well, you can no, I don't know. I'm not specifically on them. That would be better, but you don't have it by default. You will have to install it, which you can do, but you will have to install the .NET dump if you want to do it. Right? Do they have the command line here? This thing, can you type that?
Yeah, and it didn't work. I got an error. I tried it. I ran the same thing. Yeah, the .NET tool command is not found.
Because you don't have .NET in the path, probably.
The SDK, and
Yes.
yeah, when I tried to install the SDK, it wouldn't let me.
But is there another option? Must be another option to take the memory dump.
And by the way, I just researched the vCPU, the thread, so you can only process one thread at a time.
Okay.
I shared a link also in the chat for reference.
.NET dump. I know. I think I know. Do I know? 1 second. I'm thinking. There is a feature in .NET. There is a feature in .NET. What is that? I documented it. I'm not sure it would help, but I documented it. It's to collect them from crash, but the app doesn't crash here, so I don't know if you can trigger it without But that's useful if sometimes, like, this is environment variables in .NET that if you set and the app crashes, it will store the memory dump automatically on the file system. So that's cool, but here we don't want it. We want, yeah, .NET dump would be the best. So you say you can't install it because, yeah. And there is no tool in the UI to take memory dump.
Yeah, there isn't any. I mean, if you want to take it offline, I don't mind sharing, giving you access to my environment, giving you a drive, but
App service. Oh, yeah. Okay. An article here. Linux again. Install the .NET, so they install the .NET. Okay, I will help you run the .NET dump. We'll find where the .NET is installed, because if you have your app running on app service, then .NET, and when you type .NET, nothing happens, right?
.NET. Yeah, I just say that .NET command not found.
Okay, it's somewhere, like, I don't know where it is, but this is somewhere. Just need to find the folder.
I'll use Ubuntu.
Right,
user bin.
It must be in a special place because it's app service. So they must place it in a special folder and invoke it directly because they know the folder location. We just need to find where it is. Okay. Then that's fine. HTTP.
Isn't there like a where is command? Where is .NET? Where?
Proc PID exit. Okay, so do that. In here, that doesn't matter. Okay, here. So when you type top, you will see. Well, for me, it doesn't work. You will see the list of processes.
Yeah. I'm in. It's one.
Okay, it's one.
Folder one.
So then you can do cat /proc/1/exe like that.
Permission denied.
Sudo. It's a symlink. So they say read link. So yeah, this thing will tell you where .NET is. I'm pasting the Stack Overflow question. That shows how to get the process. When you have that, you know where the .NET is. When you know where the .NET is, you can do the .NET install thing by prefixing the .NET location.
Keep getting permission denied.
Okay, I will take it offline and we'll find it. Okay.
Sounds good.
So the idea is that with the memory dump, we'll be able to see the instances of the object that the .NET is running. So we look at something that is in the 400 connection, something like SQL connection, like HTTP client, whatever that can hold a connection. And once we find it, then we will know what is creating it. We'll have a more clues about what's creating it. And on my side, I will also try to run this thing on one core just to see how many requests per second we can get.
Just make sure you're running it on, well, so in
One core.
Azure, it uses virtual cores.
Yeah,
Physical cores can process 2 threads at a time. I'm sorry, virtual cores can process 1 thread at a time, but dedicated core can process 2 threads at a time.
because they are hyper-threaded.
Yep, hyper-threading, exactly. So in Azure, it's a virtual CPU, so 1 core.
It's the same
1
thing.
thread
When
at a time.
I say 0, is the core number 1, the core number 0. Why that? What did I do to be very wrong? Okay, well, that's it. Let me check 1 second. If Thursday I'm here, Thursday I'm here. All good. Good. Thanks everyone. See you next week.
Sounds good. Thank you.